Thanks to Colonial Brewing Co for sponsoring the pod today.
Thank you, Colonial.
For those of you who may not know,
It's pros and cons time! Mr. Smith?
Hey, who's that?
David Zakapakarakis.
Wrong.
How the bloody hell do you say that?
Pros and cons.
What is going on, everybody?
Daniel, what's going on? What's happening?
Mate, I'm just enjoying the day.
Are you enjoying the new chair that you're sitting on?
Check out these chairs, mate. I feel very upright. I don't know if I'm not sure if I like them.
Yeah, the cushion is very soft.
Yeah, soft
Yeah.
and then hard back.
Hard back, yeah. So for people that don't know what the hell we're talking about, we are not in our studios.
Not in the studio.
today.
We're not in Abbotsford today.
Where are we, mate?
We have made the trek to the centre of Melbourne. We're at Crown Casino.
Crown Casino.
We're in some back dingy little space
Are we
at the
actually
back.
a Crown or are
I
we
can't really.
in the dungeon?
Yeah, we
of
got
Crown?
walked through some back entrance and into this little room we're recording from today.
We're behind stage.
Yes, thanks to Colonial today.
Yes.
Colonial Brewing Co, who have got us in to be part of the grand final comedy debate.
Yep. And we've got the Football Women of the Year awards here too.
Yep,
so
they're
not just
having
the
that.
grand final comedy debate.
Yes.
It's all in one here at Palladium.
Yeah, so we're lucky enough. We're going to have almost like a speed dating, mate, like what
Yeah,
you said last
great,
week.
yes.
So people, some guests rolling in and out, probably like 10, 15 minutes, chat to them.
Who have we got? Give a little teaser.
So we've got Sharni Leyton coming in, who's the netball gun and superstar,
Crossover.
and who's crossed over, plays AFLW for Collingwood.
I'm looking forward to the Sharni talk because she's loud and very exuberant, and we've actually crossed paths before.
Okay.
And I'm going to keep that as a surprise to you.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
Just
depending on what it is, I'm not going to
Interesting.
let you in on that.
Yes, we've got Lehmo coming in. Everyone knows Lehmo's a massive Hawks man, so
Yes.
I'm pumped to talk about footy with him.
Yep.
So they're obviously going to be a part of the comedy
Adam
debate.
Rozenbachs too.
Adam's going to be a part of the
Carlton
debate
man.
as well. He's
Carlton
a big
man
blues
for you,
man.
yes.
Yeah, so we might ask him a couple of questions. I've heard he's got a interesting choice of jumper signed.
Ooh, okay.
We
All right.
might want to ask him about that.
Yep.
And hear a little bit about, I guess, this comedy debate will be interesting to hear.
Yes. And then we've got the winner.
The winner, whoever the winner ends up being for the football awards, the women of the year, I guess, in football.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting to chat to, and yeah, I guess we're just going to hang out here at Crown and the back of Crown
Hopefully
somewhere.
they actually find us in these back rooms. And I mean, thank you to Colonial and Crown for having us here and allowing us to do the podcast here.
Yeah.
So we get these guests in. But
Well, we're in the green room, and I
yeah.
think all the other people who are part of the show are in the green room next door. And
they're green room 1, mate. They're green room 2.
That's
so,
it, yeah. But I think it sounds like green room 2 is a little bit more
I can
upbeat.
hear it,
energy. I
actually.
can hear
It
it through the
does.
walls. I think all the Colonials are in there. We might need to bring a few Colonials in here with us.
I think they are in there.
But mate, it's grand final week.
Yep.
We're a couple of days away from grand final day, which I'm excited about. It's going to be at your house, mate. Oh,
It is,
for
yeah.
us, for a few close friends of ours.
Yes, it is. Yep.
So
It will be there.
I'm pumped for that. It's always one of the best days of the year.
Yep.
But did you get to see any of the Brownlow?
Well, before we get onto that, you're speaking of the grand final. I'm just happy Richmond won.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was going to skip over this, mate. I don't know.
I don't know about skipping over it. The bad thing is we haven't actually come to decide what you do, but
Yes. Well, here's the funny
I feel
thing.
like consensus we should decide. Because I don't want to just I know we haven't made it, right? We
Yes.
haven't made the bet.
Yes.
But we made the bet that we would make the bet.
So for those who missed it last week's ep, on my grand final pick,
Yep.
this is controversial. Geelong.
Geelong. All right, so Geelong.
Geelong.
is your pick.
Damn it,
Is your
that's
tip.
definitely
I reckon
gonna-
you're losing the bet for
you're right.
sure.
What an idiot. That was so dumb. Anyway, what we made a bet to say whoever picked the winner of the grand final and they didn't win in the prelim
Yes.
is going to have to do something.
Yes.
And we are so unorganised and we didn't organise what that would be.
No, but we
Before
will.
last week's ep and before this week's ep.
Yes, yeah.
So-
we've had a busy week, mate, trying to organise today.
It has been
Yeah.
pretty busy. So, yes, unfortunately, I tipped Geelong. But how close was it, mate? Well, at the first half.
Well, yeah, I was. I think did Richmond kick the first goal of the game? Maybe. I
Yeah,
can't
they
remember.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was actually going to text you right then, and I was thinking about it, and then I went very quiet once Geelong hit the lead early.
Yes.
and I was very nervous.
They
I
looked
thought
very good.
They looked good. I thought this is over. Like I'm going to do something here. I'll see what it could be, and all thoughts are going through my head. But very happy that Richmond got over the line, and I'm going to have to decide what that challenge is, or I think we're going to have to decide what it is. It'll be
We might
small.
have to make a decision
It'll be small,
about that,
but we're going to
yes.
have to decide. Yeah.
So, yes, I lost that bet. And it was funny because I wanted to pick Geelong because I thought there was a rough chance that they would beat the Tigers and thinking the Tigers are the obvious choice. Let's choose against that. But if I wasn't going to pick that, I would have picked Collingwood, so I would have lost anyway.
Yes.
So I thought Collingwood would definitely beat GWS.
I know,
And that didn't happen.
and that happened. So massive. But we'll talk about our grand final picks later in the show.
Yes. Yep. Brownlow though.
Yes.
Nat Fyfe.
Nat Fyfe, winner of the Brownlow.
Very good winner.
Could have partied in these rooms.
You probably did.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about this specific room, but I mean, maybe. It's pretty clean. His speech was unreal. I don't know if you got to see it. Did you see it?
It was a bit late for me, mate.
Bit late for you?
Yeah, it was a bit late for me.
Go to bed?
Yeah, I went to bed, yeah. I saw him win, but then I went to bed.
Yeah, okay. Did you play against Fyfe this year?
I got injured in the second game, and I think he did play in the first game, against us, round 9, I think it was.
He dominated in lots of games that they lost, which was interesting. You don't see that all that often, but so did Paddy Cripps. It was my tip, Paddy Cripps. And I think so. He ended up with 33 votes, and he had 17 in wins and 16 in losses. I think it was. It's pretty crazy.
It's amazing. I mean, he's a consistent performer, and he obviously plays well whether his side's playing well or not, which is a good reflection of a great player, that they play well regardless. But yeah, it's always an interesting one when your side loses at home by 30 or 40 points and you get the 3 votes.
I know.
And I think there was one of those interesting games that people were talking about was the Richmond game. Richmond beat him by about 5 or 6 goals in Perth. And he had 30 and kicked 3. So that's worth the 3 votes in any game. And there was no one really no one from Richmond kicked 5, or I think Basher might have had 30. There was no one else that had 35 or whatever, that kind of thing. But I think it's that contentious thing where I know there's some footy purists that I know that will go, nah, if you win and you win by if you win by less than 2 goals or whatever, then anyone can get 3 votes. But if you win by probably more than that, and you have a good, comfortable victory, that even though you might not be the best player on the ground, that you should get
the winning
3 votes. The winning team. And he maybe get 2 votes. So whether that might bring him back to the pack a bit more, because he won by 6?
Yeah, he won by a fair way in the end.
Yeah. So I think that's always the contentious side. But as we've had Brent on here, Brent Wallace as an umpire. The umpires it's hard enough to officiate the game, and then you got to pull the 3 votes.
And running 20 kilometres and then have to come off and make a decision on who got 3 votes.
Exactly.
Quite a difficult game. But do you remember playing against Fyfe throughout, or any of these guys who dominated, and just noticing them dominate in the midfield, and mainly midfield? Fyfe is a big boy as well.
I think, and I was actually thinking about this on Tuesday, the morning after, that the guys who were in front, or the top 5 or majority of that side, like Lockie Neal's obviously probably not in this category that I'm putting in, is they're all that hybrid 6'3" inside mid. You got Dangerfield, Bontempelli, Cripps, Fyfe, even Tim Kelly's a big unit.
Yeah.
Like, you've got guys that can take pack marks, but then also guys that can win the ball on the ground and then go forward and kick goals.
And they're so big they stand out.
Exactly, yeah. And it's that hybrid version of a midfielder that used to be, and it's been spoken about for the last 10 years, that new version of midfielder that used to be a centre forward or a full forward in the AFL.
Yep.
That's now just a midfielder and on baller. Like Cripper's, you look at him, he's taller than Charlie Curnow.
Yeah.
And Charlie Curnow is touted as one of the best young centre forwards in the comp, or full forward. So you've got him as a midfielder. I mean, it's hard to stop, hard to tackle. It's like us with Jake Stringer. They're guys that they stand out because they're powerful. They, as I said, they when you kick long down the line, it's normally your ruckman competing for a thing, and Fyfe will come in from the side, or Dangerfield will come in from the side and take pack marks in front of the pack. So those guys just stand out. Umpires are constantly looking at those things, like pack marks where it stops the game for 3 or 4 seconds while the guys get off the ground. Like you notice that.
Yep.
And you notice kicking goals, and those guys can all go forward and kick goals. And then you notice stoppages.
Yep.
So they play all those 3 roles. And that's why they're the best players in the game, because they can play those 3, or they attack those 3 elements of the game.
All right, mate. Well, let's get straight into our first guest who's coming in. They're knocking on the door right now, I reckon.
Yep.
Sharni Leyton, who
Perfect.
is a netball champ. She's won
Commonwealth
gold.
And dual World Cup gold, I think.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So she's a gun. I think she played like 14 or 15 years.
And won something recently?
She just came off the VFL Premiership win, mate, for the Pies.
Okay, yeah. I thought that was the case.
She might be dusty. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it might be dusty, yeah.
We'll
we'll have to
have to
check
see how
that
she
out.
goes.
Yeah,
All right.
week-long celebrations.
Sharni, thanks for joining us.
Look, I wasn't going to, but I thought I better, so you're welcome.
Yeah, you sound Sounding a little bit dusty. Yeah. What's
fresh off a premiership win?
Yeah, it's fresh off the premiership win, and let's face it, my voice is pretty husky at the best of times, but then after a premiership win and a good night out, it's even rustier than normal. And then a whole week, obviously being grand final week, of talking commitment. So can talk at the best of times, let alone ramp that up in a public space, and I am absolutely cooked, boys.
What were the celebrations?
So we went to the Corner Hotel straight after the game.
Yeah.
But it's I'm so old now. You know, like I started playing netball when I was 16 at the top level, right? So I've had my fair share of Mad Mondays. I know what they're all about. I'm now 31, and I tell you what, I need to be tucked up in bed at an early time. Like, I can't back it up. And like, the girls are wild, they're young, they're free, and I love them, but I just had to let them go do their own thing. So we had a good Mad Monday at the Richmond Club, but I stayed for about 3 hours in my ice cream suit before I then ducked off home.
So it was a dress up.
And was it dress up? It was a movie theme.
Okay, who was best on?
I think Jamie Lambert. So she's one of the quieter souls in the team, but
always the quieter ones.
Always. So she dressed up as the nun, and it was so scary. Like, she got like the full contacts, like the blue contacts in the eyes. And then I reckon second best on ground was Maddie Shevlin, and she dressed up as the Pixar lamp. So she was like jumping up and down and doing the little head turn. Like,
that's brilliant.
I always see the costumes, and I think the first thing I always think is like, how long do they last before that becomes so annoying to drink, eat, talk?
100%.
Well, like, stuff just gets spilled on it, or it gets torn up, or I don't know. And
I'm lazy, right? So I just ordered one online. So I was like,
no borrowing. There's no borrowing in Mad Monday.
So it's not going to get turned, to be honest. So I got the ice cream. I don't know if you've seen the film clip of Justin Bieber and Ed Sheeran, but like the ice cream that Justin Bieber wears in that. So it's just got the little head hole. And I thought I was like the best. And then literally after an hour, I was like, this is the shittest thing to wear.
Bad Mad Monday costume. Yeah. You need practical loose.
Yeah.
Just come
but I did make sure that it had the flap underneath, so it wasn't a onesie. So I had like easy toilet access.
That was.
Didn't have to undress.
So when you won Commonwealth gold medals before.
Yes.
And you won netball
World
Cups.
Yep.
Have you been overseas for those ones? And then what happens then? Parties for those, and then compare that to what you just did.
It's really interesting. So my very first World Cup was in Singapore in 2011, and I reckon that one was probably the best one because I was 23 years old, wasn't expecting to make the Australian team. I actually missed the Australian team the year before because we'd won the premiership of the Adelaide Thunderbirds, and I celebrated so hard that I was sick at the Aussie trials, and I thought that I was just a write-off for selection because I was so young. And Norma Plummer told me the year that she selected me the following year for the World Cup, she's like, Sharni, do you know you actually had a chance last year, but you rocked up sick from going too hard? And I was like, oh my God, like slapped myself across the face. But I would never take that week back, but it did teach me a very valuable lesson.
So it's not that you're old now, it's you partied hard through your whole 20s, and maybe you just
it's just your
party's gone, your party days are over.
Well, you've got to enjoy it, and as you know, like you train so hard and you're off the booze for say 6 months, and I don't encourage binge drinking, but if you have put so much time and effort into something and then you win with a group of people that you've spent all that time with and they're like your family, it's just phenomenal. So I was over in Singapore, World Cup, and we won, and you know, there were probably a couple of hundreds even 1,000 supporters there from Australia. And so we just went to this club afterwards. But drinks, I don't even know if you could get drunk because drinks like $20 in Singapore. I was like, I don't have any money. Netballers don't get paid. They didn't put a tab on the bar. I'm like, what's this all about? But no, it was a very fun night. But it's actually quite sad because then you don't get a Mad Monday in international tournaments because everyone flies home to their home states afterwards. And when you're on an international tournament, you're actually only with those girls for about 4 or 5 weeks before you win it. And so I'm not taking anything away from World Cups and Commonwealth Games because they were amazing. The next one that I won was in Glasgow. And then the following one, which was in Sydney at home, which was phenomenal. But premierships with a club actually means more because you're with those girls for a longer period of time and you see the sweat, you see the tears. Whereas with Aussies, I was training 11 times a week by myself and the sweat and tears was by myself. So the enjoyment factor of actually being with a team is next level and it's hilarious. Sorry, I just keep banging on. But so with VFL, in comparison to all of that, we had 54 girls on our list because we had a full VFL team and then our AFLW girls. And we all had to rotate through every single game until we got to that grand final. And there were even AFLW girls that wanted to play in the grand final that weren't able to because you only have 10 spots. And there was no bitchiness. Everyone played their role. Everyone was just so committed to the team. And it's actually one of the best teams out of every time I've been a part of that I have been a part of. And so the night of, I was like, this is an epic experience. So I got my Sharpie out and I was like, I need everyone to sign my jumper like now. So I had 54 signatures on my Guernsey and I had girls that I'm playing with that are like 23 years old. And I'm not pumping myself up, but one of them in particular idolised me as a netballer and she started crying because she got to sign my Guernsey.
That's great.
And I was just like, this is epic, but also, how old am I? I was like, oh, maybe it's time to go.
I had that moment last week when we spoke about the Liam Ryan story. Yeah. Don't worry, I've had similar circumstances. Yeah, with 22, 21-year-olds are saying that to me on the footy field. So, we get that in our old age. But why specifically AFL? What made you choose AFL?
So, long story short, I did netball at the top level for 14 years and it was amazing, but I did everything that I wanted to. I got 2 premierships. I got 2 World Cups. I got a Commonwealth Games. I got International Netballer of the Year. I got Australian Netballer of the Year. And I kind of
average.
Pretty average.
Career.
And I lost a little bit of motivation. And through all of that, I moved state 4 times. I didn't have a family connection. I didn't have a huge friendship connection. And I just wanted life. And football gives me the opportunity to have life. And believe it or not, I actually love that it's not full time. I love that I've got my days free and that I can work and then I can rock up at night and hang out with the girls. And you'd probably agree that it's almost gone too far in professional sport and not allowing athletes to have a life. And it's almost not okay for them to have a life because you're not as committed, in inverted commas for everyone that can't see me right now, as your teammates. And so, if I wanted to go for a wedding in netball, it was like, oh, really? Because I don't think you're committed to your team if you go to a wedding. But I'm sorry, in 10 years' time, am I going to miss a game?
Exactly.
Or my best mate's wedding?
Exactly.
So now I get to play footy, and if I'm like, I've got a wedding on, they're like, oh my God, go.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot in the last 5-10 years. I've noticed. Yeah, we're the same. Wush is great. If you have something on, he'll let you go away for a day or whatever, 2 days, whatever, and you fly. Some guys fly to Perth or whatever, and they get to go to a wedding.
I think you missed a relatively important wedding at last year.
Yeah, well, I miss yours because yours was in New York, mate. If you're in Perth, that's different.
Where's the dedication?
During the middle of the season. So missing games is different than missing training. Or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, now as athletes, we do a lot of stuff externally. We have sponsors, we have campaigns.
Yes.
Now you almost dropped the bomb as you walked in.
Did.
Yeah. You wouldn't know this, Daniel, but Sharni and I have been on a billboard together.
Yes, we have.
Yes. Now
we've met officially today.
Yes, today. Yes, but we've been on the same billboard together.
It was
an Animals Australia campaign.
Okay.
Now I want to ask you: did you cop as much shit for doing that? I copped death threats doing that.
I can imagine you would.
So it was a campaign against duck shooting.
I remember this
as a sport.
I didn't even know that it was both of you on.
Yes.
Those.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Did you cop as much?
I did. I actually got in a lot of trouble because I talked Netball Australia into letting me wear the dress, whereas I know you weren't allowed to wear your uniform.
Yeah, I couldn't wear the AFL logo.
Correct, and nor could Siddles.
Yes.
Whereas me and Aaron talked our basketball and netball into allowing us to wear it. And then by the time they realised what they'd allowed us to do, it was too late. And so, but to be fair, and this is something that I've noticed from netball to football as well, netball's a very protected space.
Yeah.
Our support, our fans, everyone who watches the game, they love us. We don't cop the criticism online as what footballers do. And coming into the AFLW space and seeing what some of the girls cop, holy shit, it is horrible. Death threats, just saying some horrible stuff. And even though I'm playing football now, I've still got my little netball lovers that get around me like, don't you say that about Sharni? So they still protect me. But I had some great comments like, who do you think you are, you E-grade celebrity? And I copped a lot of flack for it. But at the end of the day, when you stand up for what you believe in, it's just what happens.
It was amazing because someone had edited it, genius editing, had flipped the photo, and so the photo, I don't know if you can look on the camera, was me like holding the duck, right?
Yeah, superimposed.
Someone had flipped the photo, dressed me up in camo, and had like a belt around me, holding like a gun. And I was getting comments from like
on that one, certain
people going, this is amazing, you're doing like campaign for like shooting and hunting, like we love you for it. Yeah, and they loved it. Yeah, and I was like, this is unbelievable. It's not what I wanted it to happen.
Oh my gosh, that's full on.
The edited version was unbelievable, mate. It was like me holding a gun, like perfect.
So you've covered both bases, mate, accidentally.
So you loved and hated at the same time.
Exactly, yeah. It was unbelievable. Yeah.
Bastards.
Yeah. So yeah,
well done.
Yeah. So I covered, but it was unbelievable though. I couldn't believe it when Instagram get tagged in photos. It literally came up there and it was like 10 in a row, and it was like me, like honestly, like that holding the gun. Crazy. It was ridiculous.
Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about the comments and trolls and all that sort of stuff, especially now in the AFLW that's happened, and Taylor Harris and all that sort of stuff. And you've been a massive advocate against, obviously, and you've been outspoken about it.
Yes.
Where do you think
it sits? Can be outspoken.
Yeah. Where do you think it sits at the moment? How do you feel about it in terms of the people who just jump on and call people out?
Look, I know originally people would say don't engage, but I think that you've got to call them out, because then I don't know if it will ever stop. And look, I'm not saying that it's an AFLW thing, because as we've just talked about, I know how bad the boys cop it. I've got a lot of mates in other teams in AFL, and it's not just us. It is a culture within the AFL that the keyboard warriors love to jump on. So I'm not saying stop it for AFLW. I'm saying stop it for everyone. Enough's enough. But I think it's better to call it out now, because nothing happens otherwise. They just get to sit there and write it and have their little giggle or whatever. And I had someone that was trolling me not long ago, but they were really like, I don't know, he says, you're as pretty as a dingo's dong or something. And I just said, oh, well, look, mate, I'm actually worried that you know what a dingo's dong looks like. And that really concerns me. I like my animal welfare. Yeah. And also, I'm just letting you know that I'm going to block you, and not because I'm offended, but because you're a wanker.
Yes.
And I left it there long enough for him to see it, and then I blocked him. But I think that more needs to be done around somehow around the patrolling of trolls. You almost need an ID to be able to sign up to some kind of social media, so that you can't get the people that can just jump on there with their fake photos and say shit that's not very nice. But I don't know. I'm just, obviously social media can do good, but it can also do a lot of damage as well. So, but yeah, I am all about the call out.
And I think that because we're so fresh in this and it's happening, a lot recently, when the Taylor Harris photo went up, the thought behind who put it up was to pull it down rather than like address it or do anything, and it was which obviously backfired massively. Yes. It wasn't the answer, but in their eyes, it's like, oh, it's better if it's not there because then the comments don't exist, sort of thing. Which you can kind of understand, I guess, but it's clearly now more about trying to make sure that we can eradicate it, and the people are made accountable.
Absolutely, and I think the thing is as well, and I totally get that, because I've had things go through my head where I'm like, oh, I love this, or I reckon you were like me. You probably doubted yourself a little bit when the duck shooting campaign came out, because I'd never been trolled before that.
I didn't know the impact it would have.
No, me neither. I was just standing up for what I believed in and thought, hey, this seems normal. Let's jump on board. Yeah. So I had to call Animal Australia and say, how do I deal with these trolls? I don't know what to do here. Do I delete it? Do I not? And they said to me, if it's an opinion, don't delete it, because everyone's allowed to have their opinion. But if it's outlandish and doesn't make sense and is derogatory or whatever, delete it. But then also don't comment on it, because then it goes to the top of your comments on your page. So allow the opinions to be there. Only comment on the things that you want other people to read, so it goes to the top of your Facebook list. Yep. And they gave me some really great strategies around that. Whereas so the thing for me with that Taylor Harris week was that literally the day before, I was playing with C-Bomb, who is in the VFLW Essendon side now, and she retired from AFLW and has been to the Olympics, won medals, Winter Olympics, got medals. Phenomenal athlete, had then come to AFLW, had then retired after this amazing 20-year career. And she got trolled, something chronic, because we carried her off the field and everyone was like, why does she deserve this after 7 games or whatever it was? But it was really horrible stuff. And no judgment to C-Bomb, because that would have been such a hard place to be in. But it's really upset her, and she couldn't go out there and say anything, because if you don't have the confidence at the time, or if you don't know what to do in that situation, you can't change it. So there was no difference about Cecilia's post and Taylor's post, except for the difference that Taylor had enough confidence within herself to say this isn't right. And so a lot of our players or people in general don't have the confidence to say that. So we need to train them up to be like, you are right to do this. You are right to stand up for yourself. Don't feed them to come back at you, but just, stand up for what you believe in and make sure you've got a good support network to get around you. But I think the rallying that we've seen behind Taylor should hopefully give everyone else a lot more confidence to be able to stand up.
I think we're lucky. We're the same age. So I think we're lucky in a sense that we kind of missed it when we were probably in high school area, and it's kind of we're still in it enough to understand it for a long time, but we kind of don't have the ability to switch it off and not care. Whereas I feel like some of these younger players who are coming in and younger people, they grew up with it. That's all they know. It means a lot more to them than it does for us, which is just a bit for me in particular. Like stuff happens online, I'm like, it's kind of throwaway for me because it's nothing. So for other people, I think it can be, and especially probably in the females a lot as well, looking up to other females, and then there's a lot of trash talk along there that it must be hard to deal with for some of these younger players. Do you have to mentor some of them at the club and talk? Do you guys talk about it much, or is it kind of not really spoken about?
A little bit, but probably still a space. Because a lot of us really still aren't getting that much attention, to be honest, because it's still such early days. And netball was in a very similar boat. But as I said, netball's very protected.
It still happens with like AFL. Like say your top 10 or 15 players will have social media access and they'll have a following, all that kind of thing. But your bottom, say 20, 25 on the list don't really have like any access or any following, or they don't really want it, or that kind of thing. So it's kind of similar in that regard. It's really only anonymity. It's really only your top 5 or 10 probably on your list that do that. But the impact of those 5 or 10 is massive. But
it is a part of us teaching and developing them to, especially when you're coming into finals and all the rest of it. For example, at the Netball World Cup recently in the UK, a few of the girls were copying criticism after the semi-final and reading that, going into the grand final. And I sat down with one of them and just said, look, like, this isn't real life here. They're not in your shoes. This isn't, so it's about them becoming more elite in their behaviours, and then we'll learn what's important to them. And then with that, hopefully you learn how to phase out the distractions a little bit more, but it does come with maturity for sure.
Sweet. All right, let's get into, do you want to go one more or on that?
Not on that.
No, okay. All right, well, I want to get into the fun stuff this week. Grand final week, all right?
Yes.
Who is your tip and who's your Norm Smith? Come on. Okay, what do you think is going to happen in the game?
Yeah, can we talk about weather?
You can talk about whatever you want. Yep, weather.
Okay, dry weather Richmond.
Okay.
Because let's face it, if it was dry on the weekend, there's no way GWS would have come close to Collingwood. We nearly destroyed them in 1 quarter of dry weather. They were just lucky that they
Or GWS just thought they were already in the grand final.
Well, maybe, But anyway, and I have been there and done that before. But I think if it's dry weather, Richmond will eat them alive. If it's wet weather, I think GWS will scrap, and they just know how to play that game that gets underneath a team's skin.
They're a hard side, aren't they?
They're a really hard side. Norm Smith, can I be completely honest with you?
You can.
I'm not a footy nuffy. I don't watch a lot of it. I love playing it. I enjoy it, but
you're on a footy show, so you need to know a little bit about it.
What footy show?
The bounce. You do the bounce every now and then.
I talk about YouTube videos. So you've obviously got your big names.
Yes.
But do they ever stand up in the grand finals either? Because everyone's talked about how Dusty's going to get tagged. We know that Green's back.
Yes.
How's he going to go? Will he be fired up? Will he not? I don't know.
He'll definitely.
I thought Mummy had a great game last weekend. I thought Mummy absolutely dominated against Grundy in last week's game. He played well, He played really well. So if he can do the same thing again and get that little bit of grunt around him. But you know what? Heath Shaw Far out. The defensive end of Giants is next level. Like, I actually couldn't cope when I was watching last weekend. Like, you just cannot get a kick against them. No. So I know that Davis is a little bit injured, but...
How good is Shorey though? I think it was what was it? A couple of weeks before the finals, he said, "If we win the granny, you'll never see me again." and at that stage, they weren't really like.
You would.
We definitely wouldn't. Let's be honest. But it was at that stage they weren't really a chance, and everyone's like, "Okay, well he'll retire at the end of the year, whatever."
Yeah.
But now they're here in the granny, like
I know.
you will not see him again.
I know.
If he
might have a blinder. That's a nice roughie.
What's that?
Yeah. That's a nice little roughie. Norm. I don't mind that.
Yeah. So I reckon, maybe Shorey. I reckon because it's the Giants' defense that's going to win him the game.
Yeah.
So
100%.
So you're heading back out now to enjoy this event?
I am.
Probably eat some lunch, I'm assuming.
Yes, I am. No champagnes though. I've got an event tonight, which doesn't usually stop me, but I've got to drive, so we need to behave ourselves.
Well, we better let you go so you can get back to it.
Yes, thank you
enjoy
very
for the rest of it. Thanks for joining us. For
Thank
a short
you.
amount of time.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
See you, team.
Well, mate, that was a very loud and aggressive chat, which is what Sharni is. I love it.
I just want to see you in camo, mate.
I know, mate. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, it was amazing. So, what do you think, mate? We've been on a billboard together.
That's crazy. Yeah, good on you, mate, for bringing up your own billboard.
I know.
That you're talking about.
We never met before, and we're at train stations, bus stops.
Bit of head wobbling about going on, I reckon.
Definitely. For the right reasons, but some people thought it was for the wrong reasons. But
we might.
Side.
Yes, we might. We're going to roll straight into these from now because they're just rolling in these guests for this event.
Yes, well, Adam's got to do his comedy routine out on stage, so we better get straight into him.
Yeah, so let's intro Adam. He's a comedian. He's written a book, so we might talk to him about the book. That's going to be interesting. Book about his dad's travels.
Yes.
Travels with his dad, I should say, through Europe, I think. A very funny man.
Yep.
So Adam Rozenbachs.
Let's get to it.
Let's get straight into it.
Adam, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Welcome to the little studio here at Crown.
I'm loving it. Out the back, at the back of the Palladium. It's fantastic.
We're sort of nowhere near the Palladium, though.
I don't know what's going on out there.
No.
Have you been out there yet?
We just kind of walked past it as we were coming in. So you got to see all the toilets where people spend heaps of time during the Brownlow and the Logies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, where people... 3 people go into a cubicle at once. It's great.
Yes.
How much prep do you do for today? Because you're going to go on and do the debate later on.
Yeah, so the debate actually takes up a little bit of time just because, what's there, like 2,000 people out there?
Yeah, about that. Yep.
Yeah, so you don't really want to suck when you're out there. So you kind of got to have a few jokes and they always give you a weird topic. So this one is basically that you should be allowed to say whatever you want at the footy, and I'm arguing against that. So basically what I've done is trawled the comments underneath news articles.
Yep.
And then Facebook pages, comments and stuff. So I've just trawled those and found people who've said some pretty rank things.
There'd be some interesting things.
Dude, it's if you want to find an answer to anything, if you look hard enough on the internet, you'll find the answer you're after.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just got to spend a few hours, but you can find it.
Someone will have the answer.
Exactly. Mostly on the dark web, but that's okay.
Yeah.
There's a bit of confirmation bias around the internet, isn't there?
Exactly. It's an echo chamber if you want it to be.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Now you were on the front bar last night.
No, front bar's tonight.
Front bar's tonight.
Yeah, so the final front bar tonight down at the Espy, which should be a bit of fun.
Oh, the Espy. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
So it should be good. They filmed Rock Quiz out of the Gershwin room down there, so that should be good for comedy and fun. It's where I did my first gig actually.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
It's been all done up. We were there.
Great joint. Yes, yeah.
pretty flash, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great joint.
It's a long way if you live north side though.
That's true.
Yeah, which is what I live.
Actually,
north side.
are you out?
I'm North Fitzroy, so I rarely cross the river. It's too far.
Yeah, it is.
I haven't got time for that shit.
I'm out in Low Plenty. So I'm even
oh wow.
further.
Yeah. It's like it's like a dozen travellers.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You're going well when you get there, though. Yeah. Now you've just released a book.
Yes.
Talk through it. It's was it Paris and Other Disappointments?
Yeah, so Paris and Other Disappointments. I went overseas with my old man. It was about 6 years ago now, and it was a. Am I allowed to swear on this?
You are. Yep.
It was a fucking nightmare.
Yep.
And so I did a comedy festival show about it, and then turned it into a book. So it just came out about 2 months ago.
Okay.
So traveling with your dad, like I could probably do it. I mean, I've done it as a kid, but like as an adult, where you go and traveling's fun, either with your partner or your mates.
DJ will be all right.
Yeah, DJ would go down all right, wouldn't he? But how did you go?
Well, he'd never been outside of Australia before. He was born in Germany, came to Australia when he was 2, and so he'd never been outside the country before, and he just didn't have a sense of how big Europe was, because I was saying, why don't we do, heaps of things, and he's like, yep, we'll do them all. I'm like, we can't do them all. And I think he thought that Europe was like going to Chadstone Shopping Centre for the day. Like he just thought, we'll go to Rome, and then we'll go to the food court, and then we'll head on up to Amsterdam. Like he just had no concept of space and time and stuff, and he just wasn't impressed by anything at all that we saw. Like when we got to the Eiffel Tower, he just looked at it and went, thought it'd be bigger. I was like, sorry, mate, can't help you. There's nothing I can do. Like the clock, the Big Ben clock, he looked at it and just went, I could have gone to the Dimmy's clock on Swan Street. So it was hard work for 3 weeks.
Just not impressed by things that other people around the world are massively impressed by.
Yeah, it's brought a lot of people to it. He was just a bit like, whatever.
Was there anything he was impressed by?
He loved the water pressure in London on the taps. It was really good. Very simple pleasures. And then they have these hinges on the windows in Europe. I don't know if you've seen them. So basically, if you turn the handle down on the windows, they'll open in like a door into the apartment. Yep. And if you turn them up, they kind of tilt off the bottom hinge and open up inwards towards the. No one gives a fuck except my dad. Every apartment we got into, he'd be standing there going, "Oh, look at these bloody hinges. They're amazing." I'm just like, we could have just. I don't know. Could have gone to a hinge factory and you would have, had the same.
Bunnings.
Yeah, exactly. Could have gone to the European Bunnings, whatever that is, and he would have loved it.
Great.
And he asked a lot of weird questions too. Like when we were in Munich, we were just walking around and he just goes, "So what night's bin night?" Don't know, mate.
That's brilliant. Were you sick of him by the end of it?
Oh my God. Yeah. It was really strange. I got sick of him because the dynamic kind of changed. Like I became the parent and he became the kid.
Yep.
And so I had to control everything. And then when we finally got back, and we landed and we're sitting there. So we spent 3 solid weeks together. We'd had enough of each other. And then he turned to me and goes, we're still on the plane. And he said, you're gonna stay at our place tonight, like mum and dad's. And I was like, you live in Pascoval South. I'm in North Fitzroy. I'm 5 minutes away. I'm not staying with you any longer than I have to.
No.
Like he was fine with it.
What was the biggest learning that you had then traveling with your dad?
Just to relax and not be. I needed to pull back and I'd become this, because I walk really fast and everything. I'm a bit of a control freak, and it's all because of him. And then I had to learn to undo it and to just because I don't have any kids, and so I learned that I could, I learned a zen, and I learned that I could be in control of kids because I didn't lose him or kill him. So, which I think is a good prerequisite. Apparently,
that is good. Now I've done some research.
Okay,
can you please describe to our listeners what a bogan poke bowl is? Because I've looked up on your Instagram.
So we were at with the ABC one night. I was working on the weekly, and it was our wrap drinks after the show, and we didn't have any food, and so we just poured just plain chips and I think it was Cheetos and burger rings, all this stuff into a bowl of just fucking fat and delicious saltiness, and that was a bogan poke bowl. So it was so good.
Get them as a guest snack for guests.
Yeah, true.
Well, you can kind of do it instead of having them in different bowls. Just go one large bowl and just load it up. Because what is a poke bowl anyway? They come from Hawaii or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have poke bowls?
I reckon I've had a couple.
You've had a couple?
Yeah, a few near the office. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They're kind of healthy and they're kind of nice, but have Hawaii been sitting on these for 200 years? All of a sudden we go, like kale. Where the fuck was kale for all this time?
They're always massive. Yeah. I always end up looking I've hardly made a dent in my poke bowl.
Yeah, but if you saw it pre-vegetables, I reckon it's just a huge mound of rice.
Yeah,
and they just put a couple of beans and some healthy shit.
Yeah, the layer's only that.
It's a centimetre thick of tuna and stuff.
So you're a blues man.
I am a blues supporter.
Because I'm a blues man too.
Oh, good.
Now I heard you got a jumper signed by Bolts.
I did get a jumper signed by Bolts. I was in hospital last year. I got golden staph.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
How'd you get that?
Well, I still don't know. Because usually you get it in hospital. You would have had a few surgeries.
Well, I had an infection this year. I got a boot stud to the knee.
Yeah.
And it blew up, got infected, and I was on drip for 2 days. 3 days early this year. Yeah.
So it gets into open skin or open wounds. And so I just had a really sore back, and I thought I'd hurt myself at the gym. And then it turned out I ended up going to hospital and was in there for 10 days.
Yeah, you can die from staph.
Oh, fucking oath. Yeah, it was touch and go for a while. I had an epidural abscess on my spinal cord. So I was in 10 out of 10 pain. Yeah. I was on a ketamine drip for 2 days. It was like being at Falls Festival. It was fucking great.
Jeff some mates asked for some ketamine.
yeah. Oh, when they finished it up, because I was on a big syringe, it was slow release that would pump through my system, and they'd pump it through over 2 days. And then when they took me off it, the nurses came in and they took it out and they just punched it down the sink. And I was like, do you know what they would be worth? And they said, that's why there's two of us. So one of us just can't pocket it and walk out with it.
Smart.
So they kind of watch.
What does it do to you? I've never had a ketamine drip.
I just felt,
is medically, what does it do to you? Yeah, when you do that?
Well, it's
a pain relief.
It's an anesthetic. Yeah.
Okay.
And basically, it kind of kept me, I guess, a bit out of it, but controlled out of it, but also really, really vividly weird dreams. But the thing is, I was on morphine. I was on so much other shit. I couldn't even enjoy it. So it was pretty disappointing.
Okay. So you're in the hospital. We digress.
Oh, yeah. So a mate of mine thought he'd get me a Carlton jumper. So he went to Princess Park and he went in and he deliberately bought me that, that shit grey jumper that Carlton were getting around in last year. And then he saw Bolts in the cafe and he's like, oh, Bolts, can you sign this for my mate? He's in hospital. Bolts was like, yeah, no worries. And he just said, why'd you get the grey one? It's like, yeah, perfect.
So you're going to have to go, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, what are you going to get a Dave Teague one now? Or
I don't know. It could be worth something.
Maybe,
Bolty started the green shoots.
Edition, yeah.
Well, if you win a flag in a couple of years, it might be he'll be the starter.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I'm hoping we do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What can they do, Carlton, to get better, you reckon?
Oh, look, we can start winning games, which is fun. How much fun was that? Going to games and actually feeling confident. It's a
Did
foreign
you go
feeling.
to win this year, a couple of wins?
Yeah.
you went, okay.
I go to a lot of games and the Brisbane one was amazing.
Yeah,
being 7 goals down and then winning was fantastic.
That was
and
unbelievable.
it's just been so long because I grew up in Essendon, so I know, the rivalry and what it was. And, we've just had such a shit run. So kind of looking forward to it.
Well, both of us haven't won a flag in a while. So
Yeah, no, it has been a long while.
Final, mate. We've won more finals recently.
Yep, you have. Yep, thanks for that.
You're welcome. Cripper did all right as well on Monday night. He was my tip.
I thought Cripper he had the most votes after five rounds.
Yeah, all time, right?
13 out of 15 votes. Yeah. I thought he was a runaway winner.
When you play afterwards, do you talk about that? Do you go, oh, that was a 3? Like if you have a cracker, if you have 30 and 4 goals, you walk in and go, that's 3 votes, boys.
You probably know if you're going to, I mean, if the Herald Sun, it's normally the Herald Sun or say Triple Footy or whatever, all those, like this year was different winners in every single pretty much.
Yeah, it was.
So you usually gauge off one of those shows or ABC winner or that kind of thing. But this year was different. So I'm surprised, as a lot of people were, that probably Fife ran away with it in the end because there were a lot of good players and Bontempelli won the Herald Sun one. So you were surprised. But
Footy grand final this weekend, you're going to watch, obviously.
Yes.
Who's your tip?
I think Richmond by probably about 4 or 5 goals. I reckon GWS are just going to run out of steam from what I can tell. But I'll be going for GWS. I think it'd be fun. Richmond's had their fun. And I was there on Friday night and that was the loudest game I've ever been to. It's just Geelong and Richmond. And when Richmond, you could just hear them beforehand. You notice how dire fans get. They're like, oh, we can't win now. And you're like, you're 2 goals down, mate. And you're Richmond, you're going to be okay. And then the roar when they were coming. It was just incredible.
Prelims are all better than grand finals in terms of atmosphere because you've got, I went to the Richmond GWS prelim in 2017 and then the granny the week after. And the prelim was unbelievable.
So much better.
Yeah, because it was yellow and black up from the bottom, from level 1 all the way to level 4, and it was 95,000. And then grand finals, all your corporates and all that, which it is
it's probably as close as we'll get to Premier League kind of, parochial crowd.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just one city, one town.
It was unbelievable. Yeah. Who's your tip for Norm?
That's a really good question. Probably Prestia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I reckon he's been dominating and kind of, getting through. Like he was fantastic on Friday night, so I reckon, they'll be paying attention to him. Or else, they owe Hooley one.
Yeah,
maybe he should get one as well. Okay. He was pretty good.
Now, every kid's or every singer's dream or every opera singer's dream is to do a performance at the Opera House.
Yep.
You got to do one as a comedian.
Yes.
What was that like?
Yeah, it was amazing. So I was supporting Tom Gleeson. So it wasn't my own show, which is pretty disappointing. But it was fantastic. It was such an unbelievable room. And just as you're walking up and you're like, this is the fucking Opera House. This is pretty cool. And it holds about 3,000. So it was just a wall of noise. And because there's like a couple of tiers, you sort of have to wait for the laughs to come right from the back. So that was, pretty amazing.
Yeah, right.
So, it was good fun.
What is it like, comedians in Australia? I hear a lot recently. I mean, I listen to like Joe Rogan podcast. He's a massive comedian advocate, has comedians on his show all the time. They always talk about working out their jokes and they get to work in clubs and there's a lot of stuff going on over there. How does it work here in Australia?
It's kind of the same. There's a few rooms in Melbourne that they have like tryout nights. So you can go there and you just like, I walk out on stage with notes and just be like, hey, I'm trying this shit out. You say it out loud, you try it. And if it doesn't work, you're kind of like, all right, that needs work. Or you go, the setup to that is right. It just needs a better punchline. So you'll probably find coming into Comedy Festival, which is in March, April, that around January, February, you'll see a lot of comics out trying new material. So it's one of the rare mediums that you actually have to do that process. Like it's pretty rare. You know, sometimes with a movie they might have a trial run and get a bit of an idea on it, or a book. Like when I was writing the book, that was the hardest thing was when you go out and try a joke, if it doesn't work, you go back, you rewrite it. On a book, you're sitting on 60,000 words going, I hope this is funny, but I've got no clue.
Yeah.
So it's just that trial and error thing, and it's a horrible process, but you have to do it. And it's really hard to reset yourself to go and do it. But, you know, when it does, it's rewarding. And by the time you get to the comedy festival, you feel like you're pretty confident and ready to go.
And then do you find that you bomb? Like you need to be able to have those sets where you just bomb. And
absolutely, yeah. And, you know, again, it's a horrible feeling, but if you start to bomb and then you go and do old material to save yourself, you haven't learned anything because you go, I could keep doing that, but you need to know if this shit's going to work. And it's a horrible process. But, you know, better to bomb there than to do it during comedy festival or later on. Like we've all tanked. Like I've done gigs for the Australian troops over in the Middle East. I was in Afghanistan. And I fucking tanked like you could not believe. But halfway through my set, there's Black Hawk helicopters landing and stuff. And everyone's just looking at me going, yeah, keep going. This is nothing. And you're just going, this is fucking horrible. And people just, like particularly Americans, just going, really? They brought this guy over for us?
Right.
So it was horrible.
Do you, that'll be insane.
Right.
Do you find that, that like your process has to change depending on, you know, like if you're going to a gig like that, having to go over, does your process change on what you have to write?
I think no. Like when you go into say gigs like those, the gigs you're doing for the troops or whatever, you're taking your best material, so you're not trialing stuff out. And usually that's with any show. You might adjust it, like you might clean it up a bit if it's a corporate or you know, older people in the crowd. But for a footy club, you just do your roll goal best, and you pick it out. Most people have got a club set that's about half an hour long. Nothing really differs. Like if you see me 5 weeks in a row doing footy clubs, you'll pretty much see the same set all the time. You know, I'll have a bit of a chat to the crowd, but you know what works. That's not the time to try new shit, because if you start tanking, you get cotton mouth, you start getting dry, you get nervous, they start going, this is shit. And then they'll start talking, and then you're no way getting them back.
I've always thought like because I go to the comedy festival every year.
Yeah.
Like, you said jokes for 5, 6, 7 weeks, whatever. Do you ever get sick of just, because it's like a script almost for you, isn't it? Do you ever?
In the comedy festival, you don't, because that's a new hour, so you're actually excited by it. But
Okay.
by the time, like 11 months later, when you've played, like my club set, oh man, I fucking hate it. Like it's just, I can just do it. Like I'll be thinking about something else and saying it. Like I'll be thinking about, oh, what am I going to do next? And I'm like, fuck, get back in the moment.
Yeah.
So you're just so used to it. It's just rote. So it's a bit. You can get sick of it, but that's why comedy festival, when you get to do new shit, you're like, yeah, I'm really enjoying this shit. You know, it's fun.
It's such an amazing dynamic because the person who's in the audience listening is the first time they're listening
Absolutely,
to it.
Yeah. And so you've got to have that energy about it, because sometimes you're just like, this.
Yeah. Hecklers, do you get it many?
Not generally in comedy festival, because the rooms you're playing are too small. Okay. But sometimes, you know, you might do footy clubs and stuff where people get a little bit boozy and get a bit confident. But the worst thing is usually you're talking when they yell out, so you actually can't hear it. Yeah. And so you stop and go, what was that? Then they shit themselves. They don't say anything. Then it's awkward. And then you're like, oh, fuck, here we go. And so you just kind of move on. The worst is when they keep doing it, and it just ruins your rhythm. So you go, in your head, you're thinking, I can't leave any pauses, like natural pauses, because he's just going to drive into them. So you start racing and just sort of it just upsets your rhythm and it ruins the set. There's nothing worse. I had a guy in Adelaide was so drunk in the front row. There's maybe 30 people in the room. I had to kick him out because he just kept going. I was like, mate, I'm going to ask you to leave. And he's like, fucking man, just kept going. I was like, mate, you got to get out. And his wife stayed. Like, I think she was just wrapped to have 50 minutes without that dickhead at her side. He was such a tool.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Good luck
out there with the comedy debate.
Thank you.
Go well out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. Sweet. Thank you.
boys.
Mate, that was a very interesting chat with Adam. How would you go traveling with DJ Was, as your dad's nickname is? How would you go traveling?
My dad, I've traveled with my dad before, like younger. I lived in the States and with my parents for 4 years, and we used to travel all the time.
Yep.
He's the most organised man alive, my dad, and he'll be at the airport 4 hours before anyone else needs to be there, and he'll be up early and want to do it. I'm the opposite. I'll jump out of bed and just go straight to the airport.
Yes.
So I think I'd be organised enough with him. I don't know. Me and DJ would go all right. I reckon.
Yeah. Would he have the hinge fetish?
I don't know.
Fetish.
I don't know if my dad would be that interested in the hinges on the windows.
And know what day bins are getting picked up?
Yeah,
Do you want to know that?
I don't know. I've been to Europe with my dad. What would be more interesting is going traveling with my mum. Me and my mum butt heads a fair bit.
Yes.
And I remember going to London with my family, and we walked into our hotel, and Mum's she's going to hate me for telling this story. We walked in and she went straight into the toilet and sat on it, and we just heard screaming. She's run out and she said, "My bum is burning. My bum is burning." And then she thinks that they'd bleached the toilets and it was still fresh. And she's like, "We have to get out of here." And then she cracked the shits, which she does very easily, especially when I'm around. And
lovely lady,
she cracks it. She's a bit of an Irish psycho inside, and she cracked it and said, "We're leaving. I'm going. I don't care. We're going to go in another hotel. We're getting out of here immediately." And she just walked out the door. So I think traveling with my mum would be more interesting for a book than my dad. Dad's very chill. Nothing goes wrong with that.
I think you're right there. Yeah.
My mum's travel. How about you? How did you go?
Mum's very blasé and would be I've travelled to Greece with mum and dad.
Yep.
Dad's very different on holidays than he is in Melbourne.
Okay.
I'll say that.
How's that?
The workaholic, committed, dedicated, person in Melbourne. He's just a workaholic. Just works. Very organised, that kind of thing. On holidays, a lot more relaxed.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's quite fun to travel with, especially when we're in Greece. And then mum's great all year round, mate. She's great to travel with. Just loves to do things. The one thing she'll complain about is she needs a nana nap during the day. So if she doesn't,
siesta time.
Yes, she needs a siesta. So if we do something in the morning, we can't do something at night unless she has a 1 or 2 hour nap. Yeah. Right. So she
nice and relaxed.
Yeah. So she's nice and relaxed on holidays, which is they were actually a lot of fun to travel with. But yeah, I mean, Dad's organised, so everything needs to be organised, but they're pretty fun to travel with.
Well, we're going to get our next guest in, who I'm super excited about, Lehmo, who we all know has been before the game back in the day, comedian, funny man.
Big Hawk supporter.
Big Hawk supporter was footy show earlier this year, which
on the footy show. Talk about that.
And what else has he done? He's done a lot of TV stuff, and he's also part of this grand final debate today. So
he's obviously well-known Melbourne comedian or Australian comedian.
Big Hawk fan. Big Hawks man. So we will have a chat to him about that.
Let's get into it.
Let's chat to him. Lehmo, mate, you're a busy man. You're running around here.
Doing what I can, So you've got to keep your head above water in this business. There are 5 stages to fame. Right. Okay. So let's say Zaka. I'm going to use your name for the sake of the example. Right. Yep. These are the 5 steps of fame. Who's Zaka? Let's try Zaka. Let's get Zaka. Let's get someone like Zaka. Who's Zaka? Right? So you want to stay in stages 2 and 3 for as long as you can, because once you move into stages 4 and 5, you're stuffed.
You're gone.
Yes. So while the work's there, you've got to be appreciative.
So we've got the comedy debate that you're about to do. Yes. Literally, you're going to run straight from this and go straight on stage.
Yep.
Tell us a bit about it. Have you done much prep?
I have done it. Look, the pressure's off me because I'm the moderator.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So I just get up at the start, say hello, and what I do is I just kind of reflect on the season a bit. So I go through some of the biggest stories, try and attach a joke.
You've had a couple of stories lately.
Oh, there's been some belters. Yes. Yeah. I mean, what a year when you think about everything from Dane Rampey climbing a goalpost to bloody Jaden Stevenson having a punt on himself, which, by the way, I have said for years that betting on yourself should be compulsory in AFL footballer. Imagine how much harder you'd have a crack.
Yeah.
Right? If you had to bet on yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. There'd be no short steps. There'd be no
back yourself to get 30 every week.
I can't be bothered with chasing that bloke. You had to be on.
And the celebrations would be spot on too when they get it too, right?
Yeah, they'd be making it rain. Zach, you'd be making it rain, mate, out on the ground. Has anyone ever done a make it rain celebration?
I haven't seen any of
that. There would be a bit of money, I reckon. Yeah. Someone. That's definitely the NFL. Not.
Is that better than the shotgun? Like, I reckon that's probably better than the shotgun.
The bow, I mean, I quite like the Dersma bow and arrow.
You like it? Okay.
So he embraced it at the footy show. The footy show grand final edition. He had the shoot that poison arrow through my heart. Classic tune.
That was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when obviously as a football player, right, myself, if you ever,
I didn't think you were referring to me.
No. If you ever found in the confidentials during the week, saying you're either at Eve nightclub back in the day or anything, or there's a photo of you and your missus on there, you get a fine from your teammates and you get a bit of stick.
Yep.
Now you've been in New Idea recently. Is there amongst comedians? Do you get a fine amongst comedians? Is there a group like that sorts out things like that?
No, you know what? It's never mentioned. Like no one brings it up until what'll happen is I'll just find myself one day at so let's say I have twice a year I have a lunch with Mick Malloy, Sam Pang, Lawrence Mooney, Marty Sheargold and Adam Rozenbachs, 6 of us, right? So no one will say a word and then we'll be at that lunch and I'll just halfway through mains, Lawrence Mooney will just go, "What about you pathetic reptile, with your ridiculous, embarrassing double-page spread?" And there's a chance that someone might actually have it there as well, and they'll pull it out.
Brilliant.
And then they will just rail on me for about 30 minutes, and then it will intermittently come up through the night. Oh, yeah. Was that in your New Idea spread, you pill? So it's really... You know, it's served cold amongst comedians, but when it's served with great effect.
Probably worse than the fine, to be honest.
We just get away with the fine and then roll the dice and maybe that's it.
I've got a bit of a touchy subject to bring up because obviously footy show early in the year and didn't go to plan,
well,
obviously.
you know, my wife said to me, she said, "I don't know why you're upset. No one saw it."
Yeah, that's true. Well, I've got something to bring up because the last episode that was on TV.
Yes.
Our friend here was on the show with you. So is there a little bit of something going on
We were
here
both
where
a part
maybe
of-
you were both a part?
We were a part of history.
Yes.
Is this the last Pros and the Cons episode that I'm unaware about?
Well, you shot yourself in the foot here getting us too
If
long.
history's anything to go by. It didn't last. It feels like such a distant memory now.
Yeah.
The footy show. And when's the grand final footy show? I'm just waiting for my call up.
Yeah, that was last night.
Was last night, yes.
No dance, nothing. That's all right. We switched it. I switched. Did you even watch it?
No, I was busy last night.
You were busy. I switched it off half an hour in, but I do have a 4-month-old, so I have an excuse to turn it off. But I wasn't missing much.
How was that though? Being on that for a couple of months, like it was a fun. When I was on there, it was a fun environment. I thought,
we
quite relaxed.
We really enjoyed. We thought we made a really good show.
Yeah.
But the problem for the show was that it shouldn't have been called the footy show.
Yes.
In retrospect.
Yes.
Because it was a very different show to the old footy show. Even though aesthetically it looked the set was the same, it was we're all really different characters to the previous
different for
cast.
a player too, as well.
Yeah.
Completely different.
So it just shouldn't have been called the footy show because that was a misdirect, really. So we should have changed the name. It was really fun and it was just such a shame when we got sacked. Funny story about when we got boned. So we finished the show. We walked back to where all our green rooms are and I'm standing with Fev and the big boss from Sydney, I saw him walking towards us. So in my head, I go, how cool is that? The big boss has come down from Sydney to watch the show. And Fev, this naive me, and Fev next to me goes, "Mate, we're about to get fucking fired." And he was absolutely right.
That's someone that's been fired a couple of times.
Yeah,
he knows well his experience, man.
He knows.
Yes.
And it's just, in breakfast radio, when I got my first ever breakfast radio job, which was at SAFM in Adelaide, Greg Fleet said to me in a moment of great wisdom, he said, "Enjoy the job, but know this, breakfast radio hosts are like AFL coaches. You will get fired eventually.
Yes.
So just make the most of it while you can."
So
The turnover.
a comedy is such an interesting space because we spoke to Adam just before about how he preps for gigs and how he has to work out his jokes, which is super interesting to me. I love hearing about all that stuff. But then you've been a part of TV and radio for a long time, and you're on Before the Game, which is a great footy show. I love that show, and then the footy show, and then all the other stuff. You've done the project, you've been on all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
How does that compare to prepare for, in terms of preparing for something on stage like you're doing tonight, or stage that you do at a club?
So my preparation is pretty similar for all of it. I really like to know the bones or the outline of where I'm going. Like I hate starting something without knowing what's down the track.
Yep.
You know what I mean? To me, that's like going for a run and you don't know when it ends.
Yeah, right.
Or you don't know what the route is.
Yeah,
Some people can do that. Some people love that. But I can't do that. So I need to be, when I'm doing a stand-up show, I'll have my set written out, right? So I think I just did a gig I've just come from a gig.
Busy man today.
Yes.
Where am I? Oh, here. So I'll show you this is my rundown. So I'll have this. So I'll have that outline there.
Yep.
Right. And then,
Yep.
and then I can muck around within that. But that's what I know that's happening.
So you can jump when you need to. And you
Yeah.
can
So I can
continue
go from this bit to that bit or whatever, but they're the bits I know that are gonna happen.
And you'll have that similar to when you're on telly as well.
Radio's more of a conversation. So as long as you know what your headlines are, then you have a chat and just go with the conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because with radio, listening is the most important thing you can do.
Yep.
Not talking, listening, right? And if you're too worried about what your next bit is, you're not listening. And as soon as you're not listening, then you're not having a conversation.
Sure.
And then that's bad radio.
Yes.
So you mentioned before earlier about being in the 5 stages of celebrity.
Yes.
Now, what stages do you consider yourself in at the moment?
There are days when I think I'm at stages 4 and 5.
Yeah. So let's say you're in 2 and 3.
So they're the flat days. But when you're having good days, you're in 2 and 3.
So let's say you're in 2 and 3. How do you go and work out your notes and your show and all that sort of stuff when you're in 2 and 3?
Yeah, when you're in it, I mean, you just keep doing what you're doing.
Yep.
You know.
Do you get to go play at clubs still? And do you
Yes, I still would do 150 stand-up gigs a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I try and do
That's
3.
massive.
I try and do 3 a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where would you do that? Did you do private events plus?
So I would do corporate gigs,
Yeah.
private events, footy clubs, and just comedy clubs,
Yeah.
but also open mic nights. Like, I did a gig a few weeks ago to 6 people at an open mic night.
Wow.
But to me, it's just important to get on stage.
Yep.
So it's like training,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The crowd is kind of important, but in some respects, it doesn't matter if there's no one there. You're just on stage, you've got your mic, you're going through your routine.
Yep. Now with footy clubs, because footy club for me would be like, we've had, I think Hughesy years ago came in. So it's like a roast and it's an open slather. So if you do a local footy club, do you try and get dirt on a couple of players?
Yeah, that's the
before
best
you go
way.
in?
That's the best way to do it. Yeah.
Rather than do a comedy routine or.
So I'll always have a comedy routine, but I'll always find out who the president is, who the captain is, who the coach is, and who the biggest dickhead at the club is.
Okay,
Right? And then
Easy target.
And then you just work through those.
Yep.
But it's a good, always work from the top of the power structure.
Yep.
So I've done loads of shows for the troops, right? And the army is a very respectful organisation. So people will never have a go at anyone above them, ever, right? Because it's just not done.
Yeah.
But when I turn up, I can say, who's the 3-star general? What's his name? What do you hate about him? And they'll tell then I can go on stage and say, how about old fuckface over here? And the troops love it because you're saying stuff that they're not allowed to say. So for them, it's like, it's just therapy.
Yes.
Where you're railing on I was in Kabul with Mick Malloy, and a 2-star general came in with 2 junior officers, 2 women, and Mick just went on this thing about him having a 3-way and how he positions himself in the bed with his... And it was like the army people would, A, losing their shit, but B, going, you can't say this to a 2-star general.
Yeah.
You just can't say this. And Mick was just piling into him. It was great.
That's awesome.
When you go to those, when you have to fly overseas, they're super strict in security measures, and are you not allowed to tell anyone where you're going?
Well, you're not meant to. No.
Yeah.
No.
How does
but
it work?
I mean, which makes me laugh because I don't think the Taliban is sitting there going, oh, fuck, Lehmo's on his way. Here's an opportunity. You know what I mean? There's plenty of shit for them to shoot at right now in Afghanistan without worrying about when comedians are arriving.
Was there any moments when you were just like, oh shit, I'm at war?
Not really. I mean, probably the best example, when I first went to Baghdad, which is about 14 years ago now, in Baghdad, because that war was on at the time, that was properly happening, you could hear gunfire 24 hours a day.
Wow.
That's ridiculous.
So whenever, and you'd kind of forget about it after a while, but then you'd stop and just listen, and you'd just hear pop, 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 or 24 hours a day. And you'd hear 3 or 4 explosions.
Yep.
Minimum. And in the sky, you would look up, you would never see less than 4 Black Hawk helicopters flying in the sky, and they all hang out in pairs. In case one gets shot, then the other one can fuck up whatever shot the first one.
I don't know how you do that in a comedy routine.
Yeah, Adam was just
As
talking
well as
about
that,
how it was distracting for him.
Yeah.
When that thing would have, he did the Black Hawks in the sky.
Oh, yeah. It's fucking cool, though.
It's amazing to see. It's not something you see.
Feels like a movie.
It's weird, like standing on stage because there are times when I've been on stage and you see them, and it's weird as you're telling jokes to people, and they're all laughing.
Yep.
And then those guys are going to war.
Yeah.
They're up in a chopper, and they're
Contribution in that is amazing.
It's unreal.
It's amazing, and it'll be
juxtaposition of that, yeah.
20 Ks away, mate, or 10 Ks.
Yeah,
even.
so close.
That's where they're. So while we're telling jokes here, they're shooting the bad guy over there. You know,
over there.
It's
There's
crazy.
an amazing video. Have you seen the Robin Williams video of him somewhere at war, and an alarm goes off or something, and everyone turns? Oh no, it wasn't an alarm. I think it was something happened where they all had to turn and look at the flag and do something. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah,
video?
it
It's
was.
unreal,
Yeah, I do. And he didn't know what was going on.
He didn't know what was going on,
but they
and
would turn and salute the flag.
salute the flag or do something, and then he.
It's kind of like their equivalent of, you know, if you're in an RSL. Here they do it once a day.
Yep.
Yeah.
They read the poem at the setting of the sun.
Everyone's
I think it's the equivalent of that, but I don't.
He didn't
quite
have a clue.
But he didn't know, so he was freaking out.
Maybe
Fuck,
Annabelle,
done.
our resident American, might understand what it was, but might have been the Pledge of Allegiance or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's talk about footy. You're
Yes.
a big Hawthorn man.
The Hawkers.
What's your prediction for this week? Well, actually, no. First, before we do that, what did you think of the Hawthorn season? They left their
You know what?
run late.
I was pretty happy with it, to be honest with you.
Yep.
I thought finishing 9th without Tom Mitchell.
Yep.
I thought it was quite a good result in the end, to be honest. And you know what? We lost games to St Kilda and Melbourne, and there's another one that we probably
started slow, didn't they?
had a terrible start to the year.
Is that why
Lost
you
the
went away
Bulldogs-
to Europe over summer?
What's that?
Is that why you went away to Europe over the winter? You just thought Hawthorn are
can't
done for
cope.
the year? Yeah.
I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. Yeah.
But they finished off the season really well. And you know what? I'm feeling good about next year. So we'll get Tom Mitchell basically as a recruit, which is a pretty handy recruit.
Yeah.
I believe the big fella from GWS is joining us, the full forward, number one draft pick, Patton.
Yeah, okay, yeah. You calling that? Yep.
I'm calling that, yeah. And then, look, there'll be a couple of other recruits in there as well. So I'm pretty buoyant about next year, to be honest with you. And Clarko's a bloody freak. So
he is.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting texted galore that you're wanted on stage, mate.
sure.
So you're going to have to wrap it up. Give us quickly your tip for the week and your norm.
Giants by 7 points. Toby Green for the Norm Smith.
Oh, I love it. I love that so
Efficient.
much.
I just think it's a good narrative.
That is good, mate. Thanks so much for joining us, mate.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Cheers. Shelley, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks
Congratulations.
for having me. Thank you.
Yes, well done.
Yeah, thanks. I'm thrilled.
Big, yes.
So you just got up on stage. We didn't get to see it because we're
we're
far
locked
away
away.
from the stage. Not sure if you noticed in the walk here how far away we are from the actual stage.
Yeah.
How did it go?
Yeah, it went well. My brain worked for probably half of it.
Yep.
So I think it kicked in towards the end. I started to maybe say things that I wanted to say, but it was good.
Tell us a little bit about what you won for and what the award was.
Yep. So it was the Football Woman of the Year. So I'm thrilled for that. I actually was in the final for last year, and Bree, who won it, I went home and my son said to me, "So did Bree win it?" Because she was so outstanding. Like, she's absolutely wonderful in the work she does in the AFL. And then my brother-in-law said, "We've got to do this again." And I'm like, no, let's not. And he said to me, well, it's really important for Aboriginal kids to see that you don't give up once and that you go back and you try again. And so I did, and then I won.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of that with Aboriginal, because you teach at Deakin University.
So I teach at Deakin. That's like as a guest, but I actually am an Aboriginal education officer.
Yes.
Now I've just changed roles.
Yes.
From a teacher to Aboriginal education officer at Parade College, and
Parade.
I have 15 Aboriginal young men that I look after at the Boys' College in Bundoora and Preston.
Yes. Yeah.
It's close to our
close to home.
we-
Yeah.
Bit of rivals for Marcelin boys over
Marcel,
here.
yeah. Didn't like Parade.
Feel free to come anytime.
Yeah. So what is your role with those young boys and the impact that you have on them?
Well, I'm trying to keep them strong in culture
Yep.
and connected to community, and also keep their schooling really strong and be there in any support that they need in any capacity, and make sure that their everyday runs smoothly and that they achieve the highest of what they want to achieve. So we have VCAL boys, we have boys doing year 12. So, it's just an honour to look after them, really.
Now you mentioned culture and that. Are they people from the northern suburbs of Melbourne, or are they from all over Victoria?
Majority are. So they're mostly local kids that are there, and we've got 4 that come from Western Australia.
Yep.
So they stay in a boarding house rather. So,
Yes.
but the rest are all local boys, including my son Taj. So
Yes.
he's there, comes up for recess, gets some noodles.
Awesome.
Now, you just mentioned they're coming across from WA, and we're going to have in a couple of weeks, hopefully, Anthony McDonald, Tim Woody, who we've
trying to get
him on, and everyone's
to get that song out of your head too.
Yeah, I know. Every time I even say it now as how it's sung. Say it how it's sung now. How does it work? Like, that these guys come across from, a place that's almost a different culture, and then coming here to the big smoke and dealing. How do you help them deal with that change and the transition?
Well, they're really blessed. They have a fantastic family that live with them in the boarding house that are from WA, so they keep that connection really strong, and they do a lot of the liaison with their parents. But it's just about being there for them. Like one of the boys is in year 12, and I went over to he's in the Preston campus, and we had Red Rooster for lunch. Just the two of us sat there and talked, and you're just making sure that you have a really strong connection, so that if they need you, they come and ask you for what they need, and you can be there for them.
Awesome. Now you work at Carlton Footy Club with the reconciliation plan.
Yep, and I'm also on their social inclusion and diversity sub-board committee.
Yes, so talk us.
Firstly, go Blues.
Go Blues.
Go Blues. Go Blues, yeah.
So I do a lot of work for them. I really love working with Carlton, and I designed the Indigenous jumper for this year.
Yes. Wow.
The boys wore that, which I loved doing. So I feel really blessed to be a part of the Carlton Football Club as well.
So what does that role involve with the reconciliation plan?
So I'm more like an advisory role, because they have a working internal working party as well, which is pretty fantastic, and a lot of the staff are really on board, and it's really strong within their whole culture of the club. So I get to advise a lot in that role now. It was a part of the original RAP, and then they said, I think Reconciliation Australia, you need to have people working every day, not just meeting once every 2 months sort of thing. So it's come a long way in that space, and so it's good stuff that's happening there.
Get the boys down to Lygon Street.
Get the boys down
for a coffee.
Experience.
You excited for Eddie Betts to come back? Is what I'm hearing at the moment.
It's a huge possibility.
Is that really?
Yeah, they reckon.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm happy with it.
What age is he now? 35?
I don't know if he's that old, is he?
No, he's not that.
No, he's not that old. Okay,
no, I think he's got a couple of years left in him.
Okay, yeah,
he's
definitely.
got a couple of years, and it'll also help with membership and new jumper sales.
True, yeah.
And my son, who's gone to Barrack for the Crows during his period, I get to have him back.
You get to have him back, yeah.
There you
go. Now, one thing I was going to ask you. So you've hosted Margaret Footy Show for quite a few years, I think since 2010.
Yeah.
The difference between that and walking out on the MCG for Dreamtime in front of 90,000 people, how do you find the difference in terms of preparation, speaking in front of 90,000 people compared to a footy show?
It's pretty huge. So I tell myself, I don't tell anyone I'm doing it.
Yep.
Although I've done it for this is 4 years now, so now it's sort of cat's out the bag. But I don't talk about it all week, and I just internally tell myself that I can read and I can talk. I can read, I can talk. I just say those words over and over again. And when I get there, I just say, you can read and you can talk. And then I just do it. And I don't have the nerves. Because the first thing when you're going to do something wonderful in your life, the very first thing people say is, aren't you nervous? Aren't you scared you're going to stuff up? Like the first words.
Yes.
So I learned a long time ago, I just don't tell people I'm doing something, and then I just go and do it, and they're like, oh, I didn't know you're doing that. I know. There's a reason.
Because it was wet this year too, wasn't
it? Wet, and the wind was
I actually looking at you. Yeah. I was going, oh no, you're doing the wet.
It was like the back half of me was saturated, and my hair kept going in my mouth, so I was like, but pulled it off.
I remember thinking of that when you were doing it,
Look at that poor girl out there still smiling. But I also host the AFL.com, The Colour of Your Jumper, which has been fantastic. So that's a new show on AFL.com that I've thoroughly enjoyed. It's a joy.
Yeah. Yes. So what does that involve? What is it?
So that's got Maddie Stokes, Andy Cracker and Tony Armstrong.
Yep.
And we just talk for 15 minutes, a bit like a pod, but on web, and just talk 15 minutes about what's going on during the week, sort of different stories and the different aspects of the game.
And the Margaret Footy Show's come a long way since then as well. It's crazy popular. And what has been that been like in terms of the popularity growth, and now it's very recognised as a footy show?
It's been huge, and it's been fantastic for Aboriginal people to have that space to be celebrated and lifted, and also for the people that are watching, the young kids. That's really why I rock up to work every week, and I think there's a kid out there going, I want to do that, and they go, that looks easy, and I go, yes, it does look easy. It's not, but it looks easy. But you can do it, and they're like sitting at home going, I'm going to do that. So that's what I love about it.
I love it. I have a film background, came from film and television, and a lot of people that you have now I didn't know about it when I was studying, which is a long time ago now, but a lot of the people that might come and give you resumes in and stuff have had their experience on there, and it's a really nice stepping stone for them to be able to learn so easily, and it's a really cool initiative.
It is a really cool initiative, and they're all fantastic. They're all hardworking, and some of them are getting amazing roles in other stations, so it's pretty great.
Now, we've spoken probably about 7 or 8 roles or jobs that you do.
I know.
What does Shelley Ware do outside of that? What do you love doing? What's a hobby? Getting away from football and
get away
job
from
life.
footy and teaching and all of that. I just love spending time with my son. So he is literally like everything. I do all these things, but I try to fit them in between 9 and 3:30. So I'm at school pickup, and I'm also there when it's time to go home and just spending time with him. But I love art as well. I love to draw, and I need to do more of that.
Yes.
That needs to happen.
Yes.
Definitely.
So what's the plan in all of your roles for the next season or the next year leading up? Is there anything big that you've got in the works that you're allowed to tell us?
Well, I just joined the Outer Sanctum podcast as an official, and they're pretty cool. I love those girls. They lift everything about women and men as well. Like they just celebrate life in general, and the AFL and AFLW. So it's great to be a part of that. And The Colour of Your Jumper, that's going to be on next year. So I'm really looking forward to that. And just keeping up the ambassador roles with the Indigenous Literacy Foundation and Jean Hales. And I think that's about it. I think I'll keep keeping busy and see what happens. Every year brings something new. So I'm looking forward to it.
Amazing. And we won't let you leave without giving us a tip for the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I really do. It's really odd for a Carlton person to say I love Richmond. But
It is very odd.
Very odd. But I do love Richmond. I love everything they stand for and where they've come and how the club that they've become is something to be really proud of. But I love when history's made. So GWS, and I think these boys have just, the curse I feel is lifted. I think this is I'd love it to be the year, probably more than this is. And so GWS for me, I think they're going to do it.
Who's your Norm Smith tip?
Well, I think Toby's going to come out and just go like,
we've had a couple of those
crazy.
Yeah.
And, some people have said he's going to come out and just do this crazy stuff. I think he's just going to play hard for his team and show them, I messed up, and I'm going to show you boys that
there's been
you
a
are my
few
soul.
a bit of chat about there could be some bit of John Alistair Lynch back in the day of Tony Green just coming out. He might get suspended for the first couple of weeks of the season, but he'll win him a flag or something like that next week.
Yeah, people are saying that, but I don't know if he's got that in him.
No, I don't think he's got that in him.
Mummy maybe though, because I think he's going to retire after this season. I think
Mummy might.
That's what he's good at.
That guy was coming for me. I would run the other way.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you. I'm thrilled. Just feel very honoured and blessed.
Yeah,
so thank you.
awesome.
Better get back out there and enjoy the
I know.
rest of it.
We've got the comedy debate.
Yes, you can enjoy that.
Thank you, lovelies.
Thank you.
Well, mate, what a show. How many guests in one hit? My brain is fried.
I'm a bit fried now from all the questions. We've had 4 amazing guests in.
Yes.
It's been awesome. We got a photo with 3 of them.
I know. It's about time we get the photos.
We miss Sharni.
We always miss them.
Yeah.
No, we miss Sharni.
So I apologise, Sharni, for listening to the podcast.
We might
when
Photoshop
I post an Instagram photo up, you're going to be out of the
Photoshop
Instagram.
it like your Photoshop.
Yeah,
we'll Photoshop us all in camo.
Yeah.
Put it in.
We'll do that. So I apologise for that. But great pod today, mate.
Yeah.
On location.
Well.
We survived.
Yes, we've done it. And we're going to have to pack up and go straight to another one because next week we've got DJ Tiger Lily on the show, mate.
Yes.
It's going to be such a good chat, and we're going to have to get our brains sorted right now and go straight back and chat to her. Who's going to be meeting us back at the studio.
Yes. Before that though,
we're
going to go have a nice Colonial beer.
Yeah, we're going to go
with the guys quickly on the
go
table.
meet the Colonial boys and have a beer. We're going to need that.
Yeah, we
it
are.
actually might make the pod a little bit smoother.
Yeah, it might relax for the pod.
Plenty to talk about.
It should be good. Before we go,
Yep.
I want your tip and your Norm Smith this week.
I love tipping with my heart on grand final day because it's fun when your team's not in it to still be a bit passionate about it. And we play some games during the day about first goal and margins.
Reminds me, I've got to do the sweep. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
And yes, you do. Make sure you get a paper.
Yep.
So we can cut out all the places. So for that reason, even though I'm a former Tigers employee, I'm going to be going for GWS. I want GWS to win.
Perfect.
So I will say GWS. And look, everyone said Toby today, and I would love that. I would love to see Toby get up and have a blinder. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to do Toby too. It's not anything new they haven't heard today, but Toby and GWS.
Toby, yeah.
What about you?
I'm the same. I want to I want GWS to win.
Yep.
I mean, if you're not winning it in Victoria yourself, then you don't want it to be in Victoria.
Yep.
So you want it to be out of Victoria. So GWS to win. They've had an amazing run. They've come from 5th. No one gave them a chance against the Western Bulldogs in their first final.
Or Collingwood last week.
And neither did I in that first final. I thought Doggies were playing too well. They got up to Brisbane, beat a team up there, which was unbelievable. And then, they come here. So they've won 2 games on the road in the final series, which is massive. And I reckon they'll win. Well, I hope they'll win this week. One for mine is I'll tip Josh Kelly as a normie. He's been playing good footy, but he hasn't been like the standout. Hasn't blown a game apart yet, and I reckon he's ready to blow a game apart. Yep. I'm tipping him to have maybe say 28 and kick 2 or 3 goals. I reckon he can. Enough. Yeah, he kicked a quick 2, I think, last week or week 4, whatever. So I reckon he's ready to blow a game apart. So Josh Kelly for mine.
Let's hope so. Mate, I'll see you now because we're about to go record the next one. But you guys will all hear that next week.
Yes.
Enjoy your grand final day, of which I'll also be with you. Yes. Might as well just stay together.
We might as well do a pod from the house.
Yeah, so that would be dangerous.
Yes.
Have a good grand final day, everybody.
Yes.
And
have a great day. Stay safe and drink plenty.
Yes. And we'll be back. We might do read out some more 5 stars. We haven't done that. Couple. So do that next week.
Leave us your reviews, guys.
Yep. The pros and cons on Instagram. Get around it. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.